This is Catching Up with the Kernel. I'm your host, Giana Gallo, and today I do a deep dive and explore all things involving the Lewis Honors College and what exactly are the pros and cons. In this special episode, I will have on sophomore and opinions writer for the Kernel, Owen Chesemore, as well as the current Lewis Dean, Christian Brady. A quick disclaimer, the opinions expressed on this podcast are the speaker's own and do not reflect the opinions expressed by the Kentucky Kernel. All right, let's catch up. I want to welcome on our two guests for today's podcast episode. Would you feel free to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so my name's Owen. I'm an opinions writer for the Kentucky Kernel. I'm currently a sophomore student majoring in English, and recently I've written some articles on Lewis Honors College, and I'm really excited to talk with you all today.
Thank you. And I'm Christian Brady. I'm a professor of ancient Hebrew and Jewish literature in the College of Arts and Sciences, and I'm the dean of the Lewis Honors College, and happy to have a conversation with you both.
Yeah, so today, like you both said, we're going to be talking about Lewis Honors College, which I am not a part of. Owen, you have been a part since your freshman year?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to get to know why you picked Lewis Honors and what was the selling point for you?
Yeah, so I didn't initially join until later in my freshman year, and it was really helpful for me to look on the Lewis Honors page and see the benefits, the small classes, and it kind of piqued my interest. And so after I read a little bit more about that, I met with, I think it was an honors advisor, and she helped me get involved through upper level admissions. So it was really the smaller classes. I was used to kind of bigger lectures, and so I wanted that more of a dialogue in the classrooms. And I also had some friends who were involved as well, so that kind of piqued my interest as well.
Yeah. What classes have you taken so far, part of Lewis?
Yeah, so far I've taken on one class, it was an addiction class on substance use disorders, and that was super interesting. I was going to take another class this semester. Unfortunately, for some reason, it got canceled. But yes, but it was totally fine. But I'm looking forward to next semester. There's a super interesting class that's on the Holocaust and kind of history. And so I'm really excited about that one. So I'll be taking that next semester.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to get a really broad idea of Lewis from you. Obviously, you work for the college. This is a very heavy question. How can students get involved? What are the perks of Lewis? And kind of just tell me about the college. Why was it created? What is the big thing about Lewis Honors College?
Sure. Well, let me take the last question first and sort of give you a quick thumbnail sketch. So honors has been at the University of Kentucky for decades. We've had various honors programs. In 2015, Tom and Jan Lewis gave a very generous gift to endow an honors college, hence the name, the Lewis Honors College. I was dean of the Schreier Honors College at Penn State at the time, and I was invited to be a part of the planning board, the external advisory board, and then hired in 2017 to build the college. So I arrived here in 2017 with 4 great academic advisors and a staff assistant, and we built the college out from there. So the goal and purpose of the Honors College, like most honors colleges and programs, is to enhance the student experience, to provide opportunities for our students, as Owen was saying, in the smaller classroom environment, to really explore more deeply in a more didactic setting, a more conversational setting than we necessarily have in the large lecture halls, but also to help students really, as we say in our mission statement, explore their purpose. So the mission of the Lewis Honors College is to enable students to explore their purpose, develop intellectually, and lead with integrity. And to that end, we created what is unique, the Center for Personal Development. So we have 5 personal counselors in the Lewis Honors College, something we don't have elsewhere on campus or any other honors college for that matter. We have 5 academic advisors. So they are in addition to the advisors that Owen has in English or someone might have in engineering. And they help students to make sure that they know what their honors requirements are and to make that progression. And we also then have various other student life engagement. So we have the honors residential experience between Lewis, Donovan, Johnson, and Hagen. That space is considered sort of the honors quad, HQ as we call it. So those are the goals, is to enhance that. Owen, you've come in through our upper level admission. Not every student who's in in high school necessarily knows or thinks about honors colleges. So we have that as a way for students to come in. And so regardless of where you come in, there's a core curriculum that is not really an addition. There's only one class that you have to take that you can't double credit for something, and that's Honors 140. That's our foundation seminar on knowledge and society. What is truth and knowledge? How do we know it? Trying to help us really think through those sort of broad concepts and ideas. But the rest of the 30 credits, so it's a total of 30 honors credits, you should be able to take and let them count for other things. So your core requirements. Experiential learning can often be double counted, especially in something like engineering where you have a co-op or if you're going to study abroad. And then finally, there's the honors thesis. That's sort of to cap off the honors experience is an honors thesis, and that really should count for your major. So in English, you would work with a faculty member. I believe Dr. Allison was teaching you last semester or this semester, Jonathan Allison, and so he could mentor you and be your thesis supervisor. And that 400 level English class would count to your English major as well as the honors thesis. So we work really hard to make sure it can work with the schedule and curriculum. Engineering students, for example, they all have to do a capstone project. So the department will let us know what it is that the honor students can do that will set it apart and yet not be a burden over and beyond. So finally, I like to say it's not that being in honors requires more work, but rather it's more intentional work. So you might go deeper into your subject, but the point is you love it. This is your field, you're excited about it, and here's an opportunity, even if you never go on to grad school or professional school, to dive deep into that subject matter with people around you who are going to support you.
Yeah, I really liked how you said it's like a dive deeper into the material. And Owen, I kind of wanted to ask you about your classes. Like, how are they different from, my classes that I could be taking, or what is a Lewis Honors College class like for you?
Yeah, so one of the main things I've noticed is it's very much set up in a way where it's set up for dialogue. So we kind of sit in a circle almost, and so it's very much discussion based in not only the way of how the class is set up, but also in the way that the professor is encouraging it. Lots of more questions and answers versus just a lecture based, but that's more based on my experience, but I think that most students share that experience as well. And I'd also say that the whole experience allows you to take classes that are outside of your major or minor. And I think that's a big benefit of joining Lewis Honors College. For instance, I'm an English major, so taking a class on substance use disorders would not be something I'm able to do without the Lewis Honors College, which is something I really enjoyed and an opportunity I wouldn't have had without the Lewis Honors College.
Yeah.
And if I can note and clarify, so we are also very fortunate. There aren't that many honors colleges that have their own faculty. So we have a dozen lectures, honors lectures, and those are many of those courses like that substance course you probably took, the course it sounds like you're going to take with Dr. Vogt on the Holocaust. As you get into your junior and senior year, most students are meeting their honors requirements within the department. So the faculty who are your honors faculty, in fact, we have close to 100 faculty as part of our honors faculty cohort at large, but only a dozen are lectures in Lewis. And that's the way to give you that really broad base. And as you said, Owen, you get a chance to explore various other topics outside your major. And then junior, senior, you're diving deeper into your particular discipline.
Yeah. How many students roughly were in your class?
I would say around 20 to 25 would be my guess.
Yeah, an honors course is not supposed to be more than 25, but you could be taking a larger class and do a contract with your faculty member and say, hey, I want to do this for honors credit. What can we do? And you come up with a contract. And so you might be in a class that's larger, but you and the prof will meet maybe once every other week or something like that to sit down and go over readings or whatever you determine for that contract.
Yeah, so you're also on the side of admissions for Lewis Honors College. Is there a limit for Lewis? Like, okay, we're at 200 cap, done for the semester. Owen did his spring semester enroll into Lewis. So can you give me the numbers?
Yeah, so I
roughly?
appreciate that. That's a really good point. And in fact, I think, Owen, reading your articles and pieces, it's interesting because given that you're an upper level admit, it sounds like you didn't quite get our full recruitment package, so to speak. And so I think there were some misimpressions that maybe we can address here. So there are 2 entry points. There's the freshman enrollment. So you're a high school senior, you're applying. There's an extra essay that students will write, and we go through that. And we target 10% of the incoming student body. So this past year it was 6,500 students in the first year class here at the University of Kentucky. We were a little heavy at enrollment, so we were about 700. And that's great. So we're happy. It ebbs and flows. We don't close the doors. But then we do have the upper level admit. And right now we're maybe a couple of dozen a year. But it's extremely important to us because a lot of students coming from lower socioeconomic status, for example, so their families, maybe their first generation, they don't know what an honors college is, but they're great students. So they don't apply for us coming in, and we have to receive the applications to assess them. But once they get here, their advisor or faculty member says, there's some opportunities here, including scholarships and grants and things, which we'll want to come on to. And so then they can apply through upper level admit. And so for the normal 4-year student, there's a 30-credit curriculum that they have to do. That gets prorated. So if you were a rising sophomore, you probably technically started your sophomore year, though you applied your second semester, right? So we prorated those credits. Don't quote me because I'm going to get the number wrong. so I won't say what it is exactly. So that's where we work it. And my last institution, we could only take 300 first-year students. And that was a university that had twice as many freshmen, first-year students each year. So that was very restrictive. We were taking in 600 upper-level admits every year. That was our way to both meet the commitments of the original agreement and really broaden our base. So I look forward to the day when we're bringing in, at least half, if not as many students through the upper-level admit as we do through the freshman admit.
That's really exciting. So, Lewis is growing, and especially with the increase in student population, I'm excited to see what the future holds and how many students would be able to join it.
Yeah, the goal is to mirror the size of the institution and keep it at a manageable level, right? So 10, 12%. We don't want to get much bigger because then we can't make good on our commitments to our students. So those personal counselors and all those opportunities, for example, those are the things, there is a fee. Those are the things that the fees support. And obviously we have more students, we'd have more funds, but we need to keep balancing that out. So we have to make sure we're making good on our promises to our students as we do it. We don't want to get so big outside the size. We want to stay roughly 10, 12% relative, but students can always work their way in. That door will always be open.
That's great to hear. Owen, what has your advising experience been like? What is your relationship, even with professors? Just kind of explain the bond that you share with all the advisors you have and professors.
Yeah, so like what I wrote about in my article, my honors advisor has been super helpful. We've gone along really well. Actually, it's been the main advisor that I've been going to during my whole college experience so far. So she helps me with honors classes, but also my other classes and other questions I have. So that's been super helpful. I would say for the other sort of counselors, I'm blanking on the name for some reason, but the CPD counselors, I haven't actually met with them so far just because the Sucker Career Center is available, and so I found that to be the main resource. And so I'm interested in hearing kind of the benefits of meeting with a CPD counselor versus going to the Career Center, because obviously one is exclusive for honors students versus the other. But yeah, so far it's just been my honors advisor, which has been great.
So our personal counselors in the Center for Personal Development, they do some career work, and we are building our alumni network, which will be a part of it. But they really help through assessments. So, a lot of students. I was one of these. I came in chemistry pre-med. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to be a research physician, and that lasted less than 2 months. And so then I just sort of floundered, wasn't sure exactly where I was going to go, what I was going to do. Academic advisors can help some, but they're really focused on what do you need to do to graduate. So the Center for Personal Development, they will take you through what's called an Indigo assessment that has a DISC assessment, another one of these acronyms, that helps you get an understanding not just of sort of personality, but also disciplines and inclinations and where might be a good direction for you to go. We're developing leadership programs. We have something called Rising Leaders, which is a combination between one of our lecturers, Dr. Laura Bryant, who is actually former provost of Transy University, but she's a professor of positive psychology, and she works with the CPD folks to develop this Rising Leaders program that, did you say you're sophomore, Owen?
Yes, yeah.
So you could be applying for it to be next year because it's junior and seniors. So those are some of the additive programs that we're offering as well through that relationship. The academic advisors you do need to meet with. They're going to reach out to you. You always have, honor students will have a CPD advisor as well. They're not required to meet, but they're a resource available for you. Yeah.
So I have to ask, let's talk money.
Please.
Yeah. So are you an out-of-state student or in-state?
I'm an in-state student.
Good
Yes.
to know. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, it saves me a lot of money, so I definitely chose in-state. Yeah.
So what is, and you have a scholarship in
Yes,
Lewis?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk scholarships. How much is it for Lewis Honors College on top of UK tuition, and what do scholarships look like?
So we do have a $250 a semester fee. So that's $500 over the course of the year. But every student who comes in, and you mentioned you weren't sure, Owen, how this was working. It is, I think it's on our sites as I look over to our director of communication who's here. Everyone will receive at least $1,000. So that means you'll be $500 to the good. So the fee is something we're required to charge. But if you are Pell eligible, you don't ever get charged. Or I think technically in the system you get charged and charged back, but you don't have to pay it. Because you've already got that burden, and we don't want to put anything additional onto it. So it's $250 a semester, but every student is getting at least $1,000 a year. So by the time you're done, you're $500 to the good. You then not only have all those resources we mentioned, we've got travel grants, research grants. We don't, at this stage, we're very young, very early. As I said, 2017, we just started. We are raising funds, but most of our scholarships are currently managed centrally. So Central University Scholarships is the one who administers those. We only have, I think, 2 that we give to incoming first-year students. But then we have some other scholarships, smaller ones for upperclassmen and so forth. But we want to build that. That's part of growing as a college. But that is that minimum $1,000 is really important for everybody to understand and to know. The fee is there because it goes to the resources that you take advantage of, but we work to subsidize that through the scholarship funds.
Yeah. Owen, what was the scholarship process like for you?
Yeah, that was interesting because there wasn't really a process.
There isn't one.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. So I kind of got the scholarship, and I was like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And that was about the end of it. So, yeah. So that was a great surprise, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's entitlement is a dirty word, but it goes together. It's not like, say, you might have the provost scholarship or the presidential scholarship. Those were things that you had to apply for, be considered. This minimum $1,000 comes in. And I should say, if you're coming in as a first-year student, you might have, say, the provost scholarship, which is, I think, in-state tuition. If you're in-state, no, it's not that much. $5,000?
Yes, I believe that's right.
Okay, I'm looking.
Oh, sorry.
You all you all correct me. This is where I should have notes. So anyway, let's just. What did you say, Jim?
Some students get $2,500 and others get $5,000.
Okay, so provost might be $2,500 or $5,000, right? If you've got that, you already are in that band of having some scholarship money. So you're not going to get another $1,000 on top of that. So you've got. So I'm saying when I say everybody gets at least $1,000. That doesn't mean you get $1,000 on top of whatever you've already been awarded. We're just saying everybody has at least a baseline. But that helps to subsidize that and bring that forward. And then, as I said, for the upper level process, Owen, we probably need to make that a little more clear that upon admission you will be granted this. So it's an entitlement, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the pros of Lewis Honors, but, some students have different opinions on it. Owen, you are an opinions writer, and your piece was very, very well written. And I just kind of want to get a good idea from a student perspective. What do you feel like what are some things that Lewis can improve on, or some things that you're just not too happy with?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few questions because I'm interested in kind of, first of all, you brought up the Living Learning Program, and that was interesting to me because I was in the Community of Scholars last year, and I have to say that in my experience, I don't think at the time it was connected at all with the Lewis Honors College. It might have been,
It was. But
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Finish and I'll
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah, so I would say that for that LOP, to be quite honest, I don't think there was anything for me as a student. There really wasn't much events. I pretty much interacted with my RA, but in terms of like LOP events, because I work as an RA and I was at Jewel for a while, and I noticed that the CI Connect LOP had specific events or peer mentors to reach out to, and I don't think that the Community of Scholars LOP had that last year. So I was interested if that changed at all.
Yeah, so let's start with Community of Scholars, and we do have peer mentors. We have a lot of peer mentors. So at the University of Kentucky, we use the language of living learning programs, LLPs. And students who are in the Honors College, regardless of where they live, including off campus, are effectively in a great big LLP. Because we have all these events and speakers. We've got Silas House coming in a week or two, for example, our local author. And we have all those different events, and we've got our peer mentors, again, that engage not only in the residence hall, but we've got our Lewis liaisons who are working with our upper-level students who are often not on campus or maybe off on co-op and so forth. But Living Learning Program, LLP, is the language that we've worked with here at the University of Kentucky. So when we were building the college, there were a couple of things that were important to me. One is that we do have our honors residential experience. We've got certain residence halls that are set aside. Two, that our honor students can pull in non-honor students. I really want those borders to be permeable. So working with housing meant we had to make it an LLP. But we weren't going to go and create another course and everything else because all of our honor students already had to take Honors 140 in their first year, for example. And it wasn't working terribly well. And so we still have a small sliver that's a Community of Scholars, which is well enrolled for this coming fall 24. But this year we moved to just calling it the Honors Residential Experience. And once this year's students, back on February 15th, they were admitted to, they got their notice that they had been admitted to honors, they were automatically flipped in housing. So on March 5th or whenever the housing came open, they logged in, boom, they saw the rooms in Lewis and Hagen that were already available to them. And they enrolled so much faster because they didn't have that extra layer of applying for the Community of Scholars, which was something that we required. Because my view was they've already written an essay for honors. We've already assessed their transcripts, their letters, So it's not that. So you're right, absolutely, Owen. And your first essay reflected that. There wasn't the same kind of intentionality that with like the engineering LLP or the communication and information LLP, because those were set up separately and they've got that course and so forth. We have it, but it's just part of being an honor student no matter where you lived. And so we're constantly working on it. And I should say, and I'm always happy to hear, and so I was pleased with your essays and pleased to be here with you, because there are always things that we're working on, so there are always questions and concerns.
Yeah. So do you have any other questions for him?
I mean, a follow-up would be,
Yeah.
You mentioned Honors 140, and that's an interesting class to me because I haven't taken it yet, so to be clear about that. But it's a class that pretty much every honors student is expected to take. And for me, I've honestly heard mixed reviews about it. As like upper-level classes, it's very clear what you're accomplishing in the class.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going in, for instance, last semester, I took an honors 200-some level class, and it was about substance use disorders. Very straightforward, very clear about what I was going to get out of it. And I'm interested, what exactly do students expect to get out of Honors 140 when it's not exactly a clear topic, if that makes sense?
Sure. Well, we try and make it clear. As I said, it's called Knowledge in Society, and it's supposed to be about how do we understand what knowledge is, how in truth, where do we bring that in from different perspectives. Like a lot of courses, in some cases they tend to be viewed a little more. So your beginning calculus course, right? There'll be one syllabus. You might have a number of different people teaching it, but it's the same content and so forth. Our Lewis lectures have a common syllabus, but because it's not something like math, there is more variety in the way that those faculty members will engage. So it can be different faculty member to faculty member. So Dr. Vogt is a historian. Dr. Kamara, who just won the UK Alumni Teacher of the Year Award, she's an anthropologist with a focus on Appalachian studies. Dr. Kenton Senna won that same award last year. He's an environmental biologist. And so each of them, all of our lecturers have about 10% or so of the syllabus that they can bring things into to help illustrate the big ideas of knowledge and society and our responsibility and engagement. And so we try and keep that similar without making it so rigid that faculty get, frankly, bored teaching the same thing again and again, but consistent for our students. And so that's what it is, and it sounds like one of the things we need to do is do a better job of articulating and letting students know what to expect in the class. It is something that is required. When the Lewises made this gift, it was one of the things they said, you know what, we want all of our students to have this one course in common so that there's a platform of conversation they can have. So that's why we still, upper level admit students still have to take it. We try and get you to take it in your first year in, so that we can have some common conversations. In my ideal world, we tried this initially. It was smaller classes, so we are, incoming cohort, to find moments to get, a couple hundred people in the room. Say, okay, well, we've all read this reading. So last year, Robin Wall Kimmerer came to campus, and the Lewis Honors College brought her in partnership with many other people. There was a chapter from her book that every 140 student read last year. So when she came and spoke and filled up the theater, all of our students were able to have a conversation around it. So that's what we're going for. We don't always make it. But it sounds like we need to do a better job of letting folks know what 140 is.
Yeah, I'm really glad we had kind of a good conversation on the pros and the cons of Lewis. I know in our last interview with Owen, this question has been on my head, so I just have to ask as we wrap up our interview. But what is the graduation?
Oh, yeah.
What is, am I walking, not me, but is Owen going to be walking across with a medal? Is he going to get a big paper, a poster? I did it, Lewis Honors. What is the big graduation walk across thing that you will get?
Thank you for the reminder. You actually asked me in that first question. And I laughed when you were asked, do you get a medal or anything? And I'm like, how do you miss it? It's on all of our brochures. Yes, you get a medallion. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most enjoyable things of building the college was I got to work with an artist to create our medallion.
That's really cool.
And I have to tell you, because I was dean of another honors college with the medallion, and so I said, okay, first I want it a little bit bigger than theirs, and second I found out that we could have two sides to it, because you just pay the $500 setup fee for both of the sides, and once you've got it, it's the same amount of metal. So you will get a medallion that on one side has a topographically accurate map of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It says Lewis Honors College, University of Kentucky. But on the front side, it has this tree, and there's a massive painting of it by the same artist, the Tree of Knowledge, with a book, Purpose, Intellect, Integrity, which comes from our mission statement. More important than that, university honors will be on your transcript. And you're building up this network of working with faculty. So if you wanted Owen to go on and do a PhD in English, there will be these faculty down in the English department you've worked with. And so when you're applying for graduate programs, or if you're applying to work at Deloitte Consulting, or just really any place, you want to get into marketing down in Nashville, say, the fact that you can say, here's my thesis, I can demonstrate that I've done significant independent research and work. I've done all of this writing, my communication skills, all of these things are evident in that. So the graduation rates are incredibly high. I mean, just whether they stay within honors or leave but stay at UK, we're close to 100% on a 6-year graduation rate. Most of those actually are students who end up transferring to other institutions. But then the benefit of having the honors, it really significantly sets you apart in the marketplace, whether that's sitting down for an interview for a job immediately upon graduation, or looking for professional graduate programs. And all of those different programs, we really are working to help you all develop and think through all of those questions. So you're an English major. I'm sure your parents at some point have said, what on earth are you going to do with an English major? The Stuckert folks are tremendous. And our Center for Personal Development folks are also there to help you think laterally through. So it's the whole experience we hope really sets you up. But I got to admit, in terms of credentials, it looks really good. It's very helpful.
Does that ease your worries? Like
Yeah,
turning in a
I mean,
resume
it's
with
really,
bold.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really
Honors.
It's really helpful to know that because actually, since the last interview, I have been applying for internships, and they actually specifically ask if you're in an honors college, which is really interesting because for me, the main question is, okay, it's interesting in the short term, but what about in the long term? And I don't know how many other honors students have that same experience, but for me, that did happen. So I thought that was interesting.
And I've been in honors education now since 2003. So that's a while now. It's over 2 decades, actually. It does make a difference. And as I talk and work with recruiters from every field, that's one of the great things about my job is I have students who are engineers and scientists and humanitarians and humanists. And it does set you apart because the workforce out there is really pretty saturated. And it's a way to go into an interview and have something you're ready to talk about and something that the interviewer can ask you about. Because they're looking at 20, 30 CVs, especially if you get to one of these big job fairs, right? And they need something different. So they're as likely to, say, oh, Faulkner. You wrote a whole thesis on Faulkner. What do I need to know about Faulkner? Tell me in 60 seconds. And it'll set you apart because you'll be ready to do that.
Well, thank you both very much for coming on today's episode.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, it was great talking to you all.
Well, that's a wrap on Catching Up with the Kernel. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to thank our guests today, Owen and Christian, for educating me as well as I hope you on all things involving the Lewis Honors College. If you happen to miss Owen's opinion article, feel free to go to our website at KentuckyKernel.com. But also remember to follow us on all social media platforms. That's X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks for catching up with the Kernel, and I'll see you next week.